Long Island Backstory with Chief Correspondent Gary Jacobs.
Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs. Welcome to another edition of Long Island Backstory, where we're filming at the Cablevision LT Studios in Hauppauge, New York. My guest today is somebody who's familiar with I guess not so much this studio because you were in the other studios, but familiar with the station. Sean Bergin, who was a highly regarded reporter for News 12 for many years before turning his hand to the field of public insurance adjusting about 5 years ago. He said he learned of the desperate need for qualified public adjusters in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. He was stunned, he says, by the often cruel and callous treatment that victims of the tragedy were subject to by insurance carriers determined to cut costs while placing profits over people. Upon leaving News 12, Sean was recruited by the nationally recognized public adjusting firm Andrew K. Knox and Company in Ocean County, New Jersey, where he was trained by experts in the field. 2 years later, he returned to Long Island, where he put his talents to work for Liberty Adjustment. That's where he negotiated more than 60 major claims, maximizing settlements, and developed the specialty in residential house fires. He's now the president and CEO of his own firm, creatively named Sean Bergin and Company. He joins us now to talk about the field of public insurance adjusting and what victims of house fires need to know to safely navigate the complexities of the insurance claim process. Sean, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Gary.
And you and I have spoke about this a few times in private because I didn't know that much about public insurance adjusting.
Most people don't.
Thinking, there's a bunch of corruption, they're in cahoots with the insurance guys, and why should somebody hire them? And I see pictures of house fires and everybody's like a vulture trying to get the business. And I said, you know what, let's do a show on it because I'm interested. And I'm sure people who are going to this show will be on YouTube as well as TV. They're going to Google this and decide whether or not I should do it. So let's get into, first of all, for the people who are watching, what is a public insurance adjuster?
A public insurance adjuster works for an insured, for the homeowner, as opposed to an insurance carrier adjuster who represents and defends the interests of the insurance carrier. So like say State Farm or Allstate. So if you have a house fire, the insurance carrier is going to send an adjuster out to survey the damage, and most people are under the impression that that adjuster is their adjuster, and that person is there to look out for the interest of the homeowner.
Because they're very friendly.
Well, they are very friendly, and they know all the right questions to ask. And what people don't understand is that insurance adjuster is there to look out for the interests of the carrier. And if he can find ways to diminish your claim or deny it outright, that's exactly what they're going to do. And most folks have no idea that that's the case when they've gone through a very traumatic incident like a house fire or found themselves the victim of a natural disaster.
So you're essentially an advocate, too.
That's exactly it.
You're advocating for the home. So the insurance company has their adjuster advocating for them to pay as little as possible, and you're there advocating for the
homeowner to get them as much money as possible, and
fairly to what they're due. What they're due, not just as much as possible, right?
Yeah,
what they're entitled to.
Yeah, what they're entitled to. And look, what a lot of people don't understand that when you're when you've had a house fire or some type of insurance loss, the burden of proof is on the insured to demonstrate to the insurance carrier what they're owed. And most people have no idea how to go about that. So a public insurance adjuster will come in and first of all will bring in, like for a house fire, for instance, you have three components to your insurance claim. You have the building structure, you have your personal property, and then you have the additional living expenses, which covers the cost of your rental and food while you're outside the home. So we will bring in a building estimator to write up a full building estimate and present it to the insurance company we use a computer software program called Xactimate. It's the same computer program that the insurance carrier uses. Then we'll bring in a contents inventory team to catalog and inventory every single item in the house.
They go through the rubble?
They go through the rubble and they go through, look, that can be a very traumatic experience for people who are going through their possessions, things of sentimental value. Right. Normally what happens is they'll get a legal pad and they'll get through the first page and a half, and then they throw in the towel and they hand that to the insurance company. And in so doing, they shortchange themselves out of tens of thousands of dollars. So when I tell insured parties that we can get them between at least 30 to 40% than they'd ever be able to recover on their own, that is a very reasonable and conservative estimate.
So these people who come in to do the inventory, who pays for those people to come in?
That'll be paid out of the insurance claim.
How comes that? So it's not going to cost them anything extra?
When you work with a public insurance adjuster, and that's one of the key elements that I have to present to an insured party, is that you are never going to go into your bank account or break out a credit card for anything, okay? The insurance carrier is going to pay the cost of everything. Now, out of my fee, I pay the contents inventory team, and I pay the building estimator.
So the insurance companies probably don't like you then?
Well, they do and they don't. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. I mean, the people who are counting the dollars and cents at the end of the day would rather that we're not involved. Right. But the adjusters out in the field who have claims up to the chin really value good, honest, straightforward public adjusters, because we really help them do their jobs. And as long as you're not going in like, you're trying to turn this into somebody's, turn their insurance claim into a slot machine, then they trust you, and the claims process goes very smoothly.
So is it like they do their claim and they say, okay, the insurance company says, we think it should be this. You come in and say it should be this, and then you guys argue back and forth?
Well, we negotiate a settlement. So, if there's any dispute, sometimes we'll call the insurance. What people need to know is that they want to get a public insurance adjuster involved right from the outset. They want to have
the outset, like meaning, you talk about, and when you were covering the news, how when the fire is still going, that's when everybody shows up. So you're saying right at the outset, like right then when the house is being put out?
No.
When is the time to?
You want to have your insurance adjuster in place. Look, on day one of the fire, the first thing you need to do is you need to look after your responsibilities as an insured. And the first thing you need to do is mitigate the loss. So that means securing the building. You have to board up the building to make sure that no further damage happens to that house. And if it's wintertime, you need to winterize the home, get the pipes drained out, the boiler drained out, antifreeze in the pipes, so that you don't sustain a pipe break.
That's the homeowner's responsibility?
Yes.
How would they even know where to begin with this?
Most people don't. Most people have no idea where to begin. What they don't understand is that their insurance policy is 140 pages of rules that have all been drafted and written by the insurance company. And when you sign that policy, you agree to all of those rules with all of the endorsements and all of the exclusions that are in there. Most folks are under the impression that when they've had a fire or some catastrophic event, that the insurance adjuster is going to come out, he's going to look at the damage, and he's going to write them a check for the limits of their policy. Right. And that is not the way it works at all. You have to prove and demonstrate to the insurance carrier what you're owed.
That's got to be hard, though. How do you even know what things cost anymore, the replacement value?
They don't. They have no idea. And so what a lot of people do is they just leave it in the hands of the insurance company, and they have no idea how much money they could have gotten. Now, I learned about this while working as a news reporter for News 12 in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. I was getting phone call after phone call after phone call from people who were in desperate, dire straits saying, hey, Sean, my insurance carrier settled my claim. They did it very quickly. I got a check within 7 or 8 weeks, and they sent me a check for $130,000. And I said, okay, well, what's the problem? Well, the problem is I've had 3 different contractors come in here and tell me that it's going to cost $185,000 to put my home back together. Where am I going to get that additional $55,000? And at that point, it's too late.
Right.
Because at that point, well, what are you going to do? Most people have no idea. Most folks say, oh, well, I'll hire a lawyer. You're not going to, that'll take years to drag through the courts.
You're fighting some big lawyers, too.
You're fighting an insurance company's legal team. They will bankrupt you throughout that process.
Right. So I just want to go back to when they should sign. So they board up the house right away, which I guess boarders show up, people who do this, and you hire one of them. Don't they try to steer you, or do they try to steer you to say, oh, hey, I got a friend who's an adjuster? I know in Nassau, and I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that there's like favored people where like the fire inspector will say, oh, hire this guy, or somebody who shows up first will say, hire this company. And then of course they can get a kickback. I don't know if they do, but it seems like there's something that they always recommend the same people. So, how do you know what to do? You've never hired one before.
The best thing that you can do, first of all, is to, if you know somebody else who's had a house fire, and hire a reputable public adjuster. Now, the best way to find a reputable public adjuster is go to the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters, NAPIA. They are the gold standard for public insurance adjusters, and ask them for advice or a recommendation on a public adjuster, or if you know somebody who's had a fire and used a public adjuster and they did a good job for you. But they're in a tough spot because, like you said, there's a lot of shady things that go on. There's a lot of hijinks that go on, a lot of shenanigans, and you really need to protect and defend yourself. And when you've had a house fire and all of a sudden a bunch of people you've never met before show up on your front lawn to say, "Here, sign here," that's got a real predatory feel to it, and I don't think that's the way to do it. The best thing to do is to let the dust settle, find a reputable board-up company, call your insurance carrier. They'll get you a good board-up company to get there and get the house boarded up, get yourself into a hotel, report the claim to your insurance carrier, get a good night's sleep, and then wake up the next day and start going about the process of selecting a public insurance adjuster.
Which is why you've been successful right out of the box on this, because people know your personality from TV, and we sort of feel like we know you, your family's well known on the island, but you know what, you're not just a stranger coming in. So I think...
Well, they know I'm a man of integrity also.
Yeah,
I mean, especially considering the circumstances under which I left the news.
Right, so I think you probably jumped into this, and that's how you become
There's
so
a very
successful.
real need for it, especially when you're dealing with people who are elderly, or if there's language barriers, or if people are sick or infirm. I mean, there's a whole range of issues of, people who really, really need the services of a good public insurance adjuster.
And I just think some people are more timid. You don't get bullied, Sean.
No, I don't get bullied.
But I think a lot of people, they don't have that personality too. They told me this. You're trustworthy, and like you said, you got to be upset when you've lost your house. So you need.
And you're not thinking straight. You're in a very highly emotionally charged state. People get very defensive, understandably so. So it's best if they just get the house secured and then take a deep breath and then approach it, in an adult, mature, emotionally mature fashion.
And you walk them through the whole process. I'm sure part of what you do is psychology, therapy, I guess I should say.
Yes, it is. That is a big part of that.
This.
You're dealing with people who are in a highly traumatized state. And I was in the military for 4 years, and I was in the news business for 10 years. So I'm, accustomed to dealing with people who are faced with catastrophic circumstances. And we are, in many ways, like traffic cops. We have to oversee the whole operation from 30,000 feet. So we get them into housing. For some people, a mobile home, a modular home on the property might be a better option.
If you have kids, maybe.
If you have kids, right, or if you've got a lot of pets, it's very tough to get a rental place if you've got pets. Yeah. So that's a challenge. So for a whole host of reasons, you might want to just remain on the property. Other people are best served by going to a long-term rental, especially if they've got a large family.
Right. So are you guys licensed?
Yes, we are licensed by the state of New York and very strictly regulated.
So is there any time when somebody should deal directly with the insurance company? Maybe it's a smaller claim or it's a simple claim. I don't know what a simple claim is. But are there times when you said don't bother?
Yeah.
Maybe the dollar amount's too low?
No, there are situations that are very cut and dried and black and white. If your house has been completely demolished and you're underinsured and it's quite clear that you're going to get the very limits of your policy, then you don't really need a public adjuster. Public insurance adjusters deal in that gray area where there's a lot of questions about what they should be compensated for and what's involved with the claim.
So are there different insurance companies? You deal with all of them? Is there a big difference in insurance companies?
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't really have to do with the thing, but like if somebody's got paying more for a policy,
yeah,
they're covered. They're a little bit more than a low end a low end policy.
Yeah.
So for the people who are watching now, maybe this is the time to think about getting a better insurance policy. Is there anybody you want to mention that's a better insurance company that does a good job with the claims, or?
Look, here's the bottom line. Well, I'll tell you what I found in my travels is that USAA is one of the best and they deal only with military veterans.
Okay.
That is a great insurance company. And then, of course, look, you're going to get what you pay for. So, I mean, if you're willing to pay the premiums associated with a company like Chubb, then, they do really well by their clients. And when I say that, I mean, they're not going to nickel and dime you on every portion. They're not going to, have to drag them through the appraisal process or end up in the courts.
Right. So I did a little bit of research on it, and I was looking at public adjusters and some of the videos, and some people put the big thing accredited, then some people didn't. What does accredited mean?
Accredited with an organization like NAPIA, the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. If you're a member of that organization, then you are a public adjuster in good standing. Okay,
so you don't have all the people calling up complaining, because like you said, there's some shady guys in this.
There's some shady guys, sure, and there's a lot of people who want to take their insurance claim and to turn it into a retirement plan.
Right.
And that's another role of the public adjuster, is that we keep people out of trouble with the insurance company, because there's
insurance fraud.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there who think that their $50,000 worth of personal property is worth closer to $250,000, and then they start making up things and they start embellishing and they get into real deep water with their insurance carrier. And if that happens and the claim gets referred to the Special Investigations Unit and you're found to be guilty of insurance fraud, man, you're in hot water and you'll never get insurance again.
Does that happen, that they actually investigate these things?
Oh yeah, sure. We deal with that all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Like people throw something else, this was included. Because I think some people, there's something that people don't know what it's worth. I mean, the sentimental value, that's got to be a difficult, you
can't put a price tag on somebody's
and they say it's worth $100. You go, that's
no, but I
priceless
mean,
to
look,
me.
I had a guy and his wife who thought that they had $56,000 in authentic designer handbags and shoes, and they were all fakes.
Oh boy, yes.
So the insurance carrier sent an authenticator out, a world-renowned authenticator, and wrote up a list of about 18 different points on why each of these items was a fugazi,
They didn't know it?
Well, they said they didn't know it.
Well, as you could try. So you specialize in fires.
House fires.
House fires, but
Yeah.
people get them for floods and things like that.
Pipe breaks, especially in the colder winter months, like, just in the last week or so, we've had a rash of frozen pipes, pipe breaks. So, and water damage can be just as bad as fire. If you've got a pipe that breaks on the second or third floor and it's in a vacation home and you're in New York City and you don't find out for 6 weeks that the water's been, running throughout your house, that'll destroy a house just as quick as a fire.
Absolutely. So how do you guys get paid? Do they get it out of the settlement? Who pays you? And how does that work?
The insurance carrier pays us.
So they pay, how do they pay? As a percentage? Or?
Yeah. The standard operating fee first of all, the cap in New York State is at 12.5%. So you're not allowed to charge anybody more than 12.5%. More commonly, losses are signed in the area of between 8 and 10%. But if it's a really bad fire and it's a large loss and there's a lot of money there, then that fee can be negotiated down to 5, 6, 7%.
And you were talking about, you were estimating that you would get somebody 30%. I mean, you can't give a firm number, but you would estimate about 30% more than if they did it on their own?
Yeah, I can say that pretty conservatively. 30% is. I mean, I've had claims where I've actually doubled the amount of the insurance claim. That's after the fact. But you want to get your insurance adjuster involved in the beginning so everything goes smoothly. When the insurance carrier's adjuster and the public adjuster are both looking at the situation through the same set of eyes, these things have a tendency to go very smoothly. And you want to get the claim settled quickly, and you want to get as much money as possible, and you want to get your home rebuilt and get back into your house as quickly as possible.
And I think there's something to be said for the stress, having somebody walk you through the process, because I wouldn't even know how to start.
Now, most people are completely lost.
Electric, where would I go?
It's overwhelming for a lot of people, and it's way beyond the grasp of most folks. It really is. After you've been through the process, 50 or 60 times, then you know how things are supposed to go and how things happen with a cause and origins investigation, and just having somebody there to talk them through an investigation. I mean, that when somebody sits in front of you and says, "I'm an investigator," and pushes the button on a tape recorder. People get real nervous. If I did that and asked you what you had for lunch today, you'd start breaking out in a sweat, And
especially when you're in that situation when you just lost all your memories, which you can never get back.
And they're afraid they're going to give the wrong answer.
Right.
And they're going to have, it's going to impact their insurance claim. And
so I know you're the face with your company, that you're the person who goes and signs people up, but do you personally handle all this, or do you sign the person and then you have people who go in and do the negotiations? Or do people get Sean Bergin?
No. Well, you're talking to the boss. When you hire me, I'm the guy who handles the negotiations.
Because I think people can look at it and go, this guy knows what he's talking about it, and you have a presence about you. And
right.
People say, I want this guy on my side.
Right, and also I know the best people in the business. When you're in the business, you're able to separate the villains from the heroes. So you know who the best people are, and you know who the worst people are. So you know where to guide these folks. Go with this guy. I bring in this building estimator. I bring in this contents team. Maybe this mitigation company might be better suited for this job. We bring in fire dry cleaners. There's special dry cleaners to clean people's fabrics. A lot of people think, I'll just take this down to my local mom and pop dry cleaner. Oh, no. There are specialists who will take your clothes, dry clean them, put them in an ozone chamber for 4 or 5 days, dry clean them a second time, and if at that point they don't respond to the cleaning, then we total them out, we get you reimbursed from the carrier.
So is there any dollar amount that it would make sense for, if it's, let's say somebody has a claim, they have the kitchen goes on fire, but they put it out, the kitchen's destroyed, it's maybe going to be $50,000. Would it make sense for them to hire an adjuster for a $50,000 claim, or is it like... number?
You know, you may look at something and say, oh, this is only a $20,000 or $30,000 insurance claim, and then you find out that you've got $50,000 worth of smoke damage throughout the house, and that all your bedding and carpeting on the second floor that's on the other side of the house was affected by the smoke, and that's got to be replaced. And then you've got to go into all the closets and pull the clothes out and get them to a specialized dry cleaner. So there's a lot more there than meets the eye.
So do you do free consults? I mean, if somebody has
Yes.
a fire, they bring you in and say, hey, should I hire you?
Yeah.
So that would make sense. Like you get an estimate on your car. You know,
Right.
you get a little accident, you got a dent. Then you go and it goes, wait a minute, you don't have a dent. The whole frame is broken on your car.
Exactly. So I'll go in and I'll just tell them a little bit about the claims process, what they can expect. I tell them that I try to get them through the first few hours, the first few days, and the first few weeks without jeopardizing their insurance claim. If they've made it out of the fire unharmed, everybody's okay, then the next thing they want to focus on is defending their insurance claim. And the decisions they make in the first 48 hours are the most critical, because those are the decisions that are going to affect their long-term recovery.
So do you do only residential, or do you do commercial claims also, or is that a separate business?
No, but there's a lot of guys who do both. There's some guys who specialize in commercial claims. There's some guys who specialize in high-rise apartment buildings in Manhattan. I do residential home fires on Long Island.
Okay. So is it ever too late to hire one? So let's say they come in, they're already in negotiations with the adjuster from the insurance company. They've already sat down and done this recording of what's there. Is it too late? Because I'm assuming at some point somebody may say, "Oh shit, I'm in over my head."
Yeah.
Is it
look,
too late?
No, it's not too late.
I know you said the best is at the beginning, but
Well, because what happens then now is if you call the public adjuster in, when you're 6 or 8 weeks into the process, now that slows up the insurance process, the claims process.
Right.
Instead of starting in the beginning and getting all that stuff done, I can get somebody a good portion of their building check on their building structure, usually within the first 8 to 10 weeks.
Okay.
So if you wait 8 to 10 weeks to do it on your own and screw it up,
Lost.
Now that becomes a very, very heavy lift, especially after the insurance company has set the reserve loss.
Right, but at least they know it. But it's not too late, because I'm sure people are going to watch this and
No,
go.
but people do it all the time. They call
Okay,
me in
they
after the fact. Like I
right.
said, I've gone in and doubled insurance claims.
And their
after
friend
the fact.
says to them, "What are you doing fighting with them? Hire an adjuster." Then they get you out and
Right, and there's a lot of folks who think, oh, I'm going to go through or I'll have my lawyer do it. And unless you've been charged with a crime or there's arson involved, you don't need a lawyer for that. What you need is a good public insurance adjuster to get your claim settled quickly, profitably, and in the most stress-free way possible.
What are some things that people who are watching don't know that their insurance company should cover? I mean, to me, if I get a house fire, I didn't even know about all, that they cover the hotels and, all these other things. Are there anything that people don't know that their insurance should cover?
There are things that are built into the building estimate that most people would never even consider, like 10% for contractor overhead, 10% for contractor profit, 8.5% for sales tax. I mean, with just those three numbers right there, you're just about at 30%. There are, most people don't have a background in the building and construction trade, so they wouldn't even know, looking at the damage, if this has to be replaced or that has to go, or we have to lose the roof because the beams have been charred to a certain extent.
Right, because I know, like, sometimes I don't know from a house fire, thank God, but I know for like a car, I remember bringing it to a shop and they said, go to our shop, and you go to their shop. And then a friend of mine said, don't go there. They're going to give you a used part. They're not going to give you factory parts. Is it the same thing this, where the insurance company can use less quality windows and a lesser quality flooring material? Or do they have to replace exactly the quality of what you had in the house?
Yes, you are supposed to have like, kind, and quality, and you're supposed to return that home to the condition that it was in just prior to the fire.
So if you had a house, if you needed a new roof, what do they do? Your roof is 15 years old. You still have to get a new roof, right? Or do they discount that?
There's depreciation involved.
There is depreciation.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of numbers there.
Yeah, there's a lot of permutations there, and there's a lot of things that are just completely beyond, especially where it concerns personal property. Once you've owned something for more than 5 years, it falls off the depreciation cliff.
So what about clothing? I mean, just buying a whole new wardrobe. I mean, it's all worn. Did they give you money for all your clothes that you lost in the house?
Yeah. Yeah, and here's what a lot of people don't understand: things that have been burnt out of sight.
Right.
That were existing, and they've just been vaporized in the fire.
Does it matter how the fire started? For example, if I put a heater next to my bed,
no,
and it was sort of my fault,
no, unless
it wasn't intentional.
No, unless you intentionally set the fire, then it's accidental. And if it's accidental, then you're covered.
So anything's accidental. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I think, candles. Happens
all the time.
The biggest thing that you see is candles,
Candles, cigarette smoking, and then electrical fires. A lot of times, a lot of the homes that we're seeing today are completely overloaded. They've got electrical systems that have been there for 40, 50, 60 years, and now all of a sudden you've got 60-inch screen plasma TVs and computers and Xboxes, and the phones are being charged. And I think really it puts an overload on a lot of electrical systems, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the fires start.
Oh, really?
Is electrical fires.
Yes, I would think it was candles, cigarettes, Christmas
Yeah, well, I mean, that
trees.
happens too.
Right.
You
What
know.
about lightning?
Yeah, sure. I covered a
common?
major loss for a guy in Upper Brookville whose house was struck by lightning. In fact, I was just on the phone with him today.
Right. So when you get hit by lightning, you know the lightning rods? Just out of curiosity. That
Lightning
doesn't-
rods?
You know, the thing on the house that that brings the ground into the house and stops it from going on fire?
Well, didn't happen in this case.
Obviously not.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a bad job. We only have 2 minutes left. Is there anything that you want to tell anybody, some mistakes that they make, or any last parting things that they should do, shouldn't do?
Well, I think the first thing they should do
Beforehand.
is, you know what I would recommend everyone do? Take out your insurance policy, read through it, and call a public insurance adjuster to get a consultation, just to walk through just a policy review. You know, what am I covered for? What am I not covered for? What do you think I really need with this house?
And what about, I remember so many years ago, I never did it, but tell me you should walk around the house with a video once a year.
That's not a bad
like
idea.
New Year's Day, just walk around as a
Yeah.
habit and just video everything so
Yeah.
you have an idea.
That would
of
that
what
would
was in
save
your
you a
house.
ton of trouble in the claims process.
I would have no idea what I have. Seriously, if I haven't touched something in years, I would have no idea what's in my basement at this point.
No, most people don't.
And of course, the stuff that you can't put your price on. Okay, so we're all set. We're going to show all your information, how people can reach you. You do what areas do you cover?
I cover primarily Suffolk County, but I do some work in Nassau County, Central Suffolk County mostly, town of Islip, town of Brookhaven, town of Babylon, town of Smithtown.
And that's because you get to know all the people there that are involved, all the players.
Yeah, I'm pretty well. When it comes to getting building permits and that kind of stuff. I
Boy,
mean,
you deal with that too. 'Cause that's gonna be a nightmare. Building
not
permits.
really. I mean, that's for the. That's for the builder to do,
Oh,
but
okay.
it helps to know somebody who can get the questions answered from the people. What do I do in this situation? What do I do in that situation?
Great. So we're going to put all the information at the bottom of the screen. Where else can people reach you if they want to get in contact with you on
They can
Facebook,
give me a call on a phone.
website? Want to give your number on there also?
Yeah, go ahead. 631-624-7574. If you'd like me to do a policy review for you, I can come in, take a look at your insurance policy, give you my card in case something, God forbid, happens down the road. At least you know who to call.
I want to get this in. How common are these things? We were talking about this before, and you were showing me. I think it's way more common than people think.
House fires?
Because you only see them on the news when they're really bad ones, but it's
You see
quite
them on the
common,
news
isn't
usually
it?
when somebody's been hurt or killed.
Right, but
Yeah.
it's way more common than I don't know if there's any statistics on it, but it's way more common than I thought. I mean, every day on Long Island.
Every day on Long Island is a few house fires.
Yeah,
a few.
That's unbelievable. So
Yeah.
people watching thinking, oh, it can't happen to me.
Oh no, it's more common than people think, and especially when the weather gets cold. In the colder weather, there's a spike in house fires, and when you look from Montauk to Manhattan, what happens on Long Island in the span of 24 hours, it's quite a lot.
Great, Sean. Thanks so much for
my pleasure.
joining us.
Thanks
and
for
giving
having
me all this information, and probably have you back again to talk more about insurance and adjusting. I'm Gary Jacobs, and thank you for joining us on Long Island Backstory.
Gary Jacobs and Long Island Backstory, winner of the Huntington Lodge No. 124's 2018 Community Service Award in recognition of the efforts to offer an alternative access to news stories of interest to all Long Islanders. Long Island Backstory is made possible in part by Americans for Legal Reform, the oldest, most successful legal group in the world. P.O. Box 2679, Huntington Station, New York 11746. Telephone 631-421-6390. Website Americans4legalreform.com.
I tried Oxy at a couple of parties. I didn't know it'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.